If an average, ordinary person had the chance to save someone's life, would they take it? I personally believe they would, if provided with the proper tools to do so. One such being Narcan intranasal spray. I have witnessed the wonders of this life-saving medicine firsthand. To start, we'll go over how to tell the difference between Narcan injection and Narcan intranasal spray. Then we'll discuss how to recognize some of the signs and symptoms of a suspected opiate overdose. And finally, we'll learn how to properly administer Narcan nasal spray and how everyone can be shown how to do this regardless of their background. Now, as most of you already know, Narcan injection is used primarily by medical personnel to reverse the effects of opioids, usually after surgery. It works by reversing the depression of the central nervous system. It's been used since the 1970s and is very recognized today. Now, Narcan intranasal spray was not widely available till 2015, so it's still the new kid on the block in comparison to its big brother Narcan injection. Since we've differentiated those two, now we can go into recognizing some of the signs and symptoms of opiate overdoses. One of the telltale signs is small pinpoint pupils, slow or shallow breathing. They may seem to lose consciousness, like they're falling asleep, slurring their words, rolling their eyes. It is worth mentioning that even with just a few of these signs, it is recommended that you go ahead and give that Narcan dose, because one of the benefits of Narcan is it has no effects on those of us who don't need it. So even with just suspected overdose, it's best to just give it. Ping-ponging off of that statement, let's discuss how anyone can be taught how to use Narcan spray. According to an article published in Harvard Health Publishing by Robert H. Schmerling, he informs us that about 25% of adults have a fear of needles. Obviously, it's not very ideal to suggest we carry around a vial of Narcan and syringes on our person. However, adding a small box to, let's say, our family first aid kit can be easily implemented. According to an article published by the Dove Medical Press by Krista R. Lewis, she informs us that intranasal naloxone is a safer alternative because of the potential hazards of lay people obtaining needles for suspected overdose. We don't want a bunch of people running around with needles that they don't know how to administer or properly dispose of. Now, when do you think was the first time I saw Narcan being used? Well, I'm a nurse, right? So it must have been in a medical setting. Wrong! It was at a family barbecue in a public park in the summer of 2018. This teenager had fallen down and his uncle ran to his car to retrieve something from his bag. And at the time, I had no idea what he was doing, but he was administering Narcan nasal spray before calling 911. The kid was alert and awake before the ambulance even arrived. The man was not medically trained, as I later came to find out. He had received this small box of Narcan nasal spray from a rehab facility after completing a brief stint there. So I know it is possible to learn this not in a clinical setting, and I'll demonstrate how to do so now. The person you suspect of the overdose, you lay them on their back. You remove it from the packaging. You place both fingers on either side of the nozzle with your thumb on the pump. You tilt their head back, support their neck with your hand, insert the nozzle firmly into their nostril, and press down all the way on this plunger. You should hear a spray after it releases. Turn them on their side and call 911. I know a lot of times in movies, after CPR or any kind of revival scene, you're fine and it's a happy ending, but always make sure we call 911 just to follow up. So we went over how to distinguish between Narcan injection and Narcan intranasal spray. We learned the signs and symptoms on how to recognize these opiate overdoses, and we went step by step on how to administer Narcan nasal spray to ensure that anyone can learn how to properly administer this. Now, in recovery, addicts are taught that recovery is not about their progression, but the strides they make toward their sobriety. It is about their progression and never their perfection, and one bump in their road should not end their progression. And to close, I'd like to leave you with a quote by the late and always great Robin Williams. "The human spirit is more powerful than any drug, and that is what needs to be nourished."